what are some of the most common emotional challenges people face after being diagnosed with any chronic illness, not just MS? So would you say that people with a chronic illness kind of go through the stages of grief? I guess, like you mentioned, anger and all of those things.
Yes.
And as a counselor, how did living with MS change the way you understand like resilience, vulnerability, healing, anything like that? So the conversation is about the invisible trauma of chronic illness. A chronic illness diagnosis doesn't just change your body. It changes your identity, your expectations, and sometimes your sense in the world. Today, we're talking about the invisible trauma that can come with chronic illness, including MS, and how we begin to heal this diagnosis. Welcome back to Miss Wired Podcast. I'm Selena Buongiorno, physician assistant, someone living with MS, and host of Miss Wired Podcast. Thank you so much for being here. This episode is especially meaningful as we honor MS Awareness Month this March, a time dedicated to raising awareness and sharing real stories and bringing visibility to the experiences behind this often visible disease. While MS is commonly discussed in terms of physical symptoms, there's also an emotional journey that many people quietly carry after their diagnosis. Today's conversation focuses on what I often call the invisible trauma of chronic illness, the grief, the anxiety, the uncertainty, and resilience that come with learning to live alongside a diagnosis while still building a meaningful life. My hope is that this episode helps you feel seen, understood, and supported wherever you are in your journey. I'm honored to welcome Isabel Arias, a licensed mental health counselor who provides telehealth services across Florida. With over 5 years of clinical experience, Isabel works with individuals navigating depression, anxiety, trauma, substance use, and other mental health challenges. She's very passionate about empowering her clients through compassionate, evidence-based care. In April 2025, Isabel was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, an experience that has deepened her empathy and strengthened her commitment to supporting others facing both emotional and physical health challenges. Isabel, thank you so much for being here today.
Hi, nice to meet you. Thank you for
You
having me.
too.
Appreciate
Yeah,
it.
it's an important topic we have to talk about. So, the conversation is about the invisible trauma of chronic illness, and I think the most powerful place for us to begin is with your own personal experience. So, can you take us back to when you were first diagnosed and walk us through the experience, what it was like for you emotionally, mentally, professionally?
Well, it all started in April. Everything was fine. Everything was normal, but I woke up very dizzy. So, it was dizzy the whole day to the point that I was like, you know what, let me try out go check out the hospital, see what's going on with me, and I will, assumed it was vertigo.
Right.
That's what I assumed, right? So then I went to that, and obviously everybody was like, yeah, that's what you have. That's what it is. All these things, got the medicine, went home. Everything was, a little better with the medication. The next morning was the day that the right side became numb, tingling, numbness. And I'm like, this is not going away, not just shaking it off or anything. So it was a little weird, not panic yet. Things were going through there that, things were getting a little consistency with that. And I was like, okay, I need to go get that checked. Then that was a moment that, the hospitals and the ER were like, you might want to go check out, neurologists and do your checkups. And, they didn't really diagnose me with anything. They didn't say anything. They didn't even suspect of that yet. I guess now knowing, you don't really know you have MS until you get like MRIs and
Yeah.
told by the doctors, okay, this is what you might have. So then Mother's Day came, and it was just worse. It was the worst moment. I couldn't walk. I couldn't
Wow.
stand. And I was cramping all my cheek, my arm, my leg. The first thing that came to my head was a stroke. I was like, I'm getting a stroke. This feels like, sounds like, looks like a stroke. Headed to the hospital. My mom brought me back. I was with my son and my mother. She said, no, you need to go. My husband took me. My mom took my son. And I went to the hospital. While in the hospital, I fell twice.
Wow.
I was I in disbelief. I couldn't believe it. I was like, no, this is not happening. I just need a little uh, cane to hold on to and I'll be fine. I need to go home. I have my son. I had goals and ideas of what to do, moving forward. I was, on the mother mode. I was like, I need to do this, I need to do that. Nothing can get in my way. Right. So I kept telling my husband, no, once they give me this, mobility equipment,
Typical
I can
mom.
go home,
We're
right?
fine.
And my husband's like looking at me like, what are you talking about? You're cramping. You're falling. you got to stay here. So then the doctor said, you got to stay here for, a few days to do steroids. And then we're going to do more MRIs and exams and things like that. And so I was like, no, why? I could go to the neurologist later and do it. So it wasn't that I wasn't denying the doctor of doing anything. I just didn't want to stay in the hospital, right? And
Yeah.
have anything come up or anything. Until the moment came and I was like, okay, fine, I gotta stay. And that's where I just broke down. And it's like my whole
Mm.
life fell apart because the cramping kept going. I was unable to get off the bed. Like they didn't want me to move. All these things just all of a sudden it flared up so fast and so in so many angles. So all my motor skills were attacked.
Wow.
And come to know once I got all the results and everything, and then obviously they told me, you have MS. And I was like, I have something. And, sometimes knowing your diagnosis is good and sometimes it's really not, especially
Right.
on my end. It's like, I have something. Like, I've never had anything major like this, right? And then what is this? And then, yeah, it's neurology and this and that. I'm like, okay, that's it. I already thought of the worst. They're going in my brain. They're going to start touching it, tumors, things like that, right? And so I'm thinking the worst. I'm panicking. I'm in total despair. And it was just like my whole life fell apart. And my son. So thankfully, like I want to say that to everybody. The support is so important. My husband stayed with me and my mom took my son. And it was like, all right, now I need to get better. So what do I have
Right.
to do
How old
after?
is your son?
Well, he's 5.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's interesting you say that because it's like when you get a diagnosis, you're almost relieved to explain all of the pain and everything you've been having because now it has a name. And once it has a name, we can treat it. But then on the other end, you're like, well, wait, what is this? What's happening? And so it's interesting. And how has your diagnosis changed your outlook on life, both personally and professionally?
It has changed my outlook drastically. I already thought that I've been through a lot in life, period, right? But this just opened up my eyes and opened up the concept of what life really is, right? And it's funny because my husband told me, I think he was just reminding me, right? He says, when we're born, our cells are dying, right? And they're reproducing. So our body's always fighting to stay alive, right? So when he said that, I said, wow, you're right. So every day we wake up is a present, is a
Right.
gift, right? And so not only are our cells working, it's our heart is working, our mind is working, our soul is everything. So it all kind of clicked. And I said, you know what? I don't have superpowers, which I didn't think I had, but I thought, well, I'm here to help, right? So that's my gift. I'm here to help others. I'm here to give counseling to others. I'm here to provide and guide and all this stuff. So you kind of feel like you have a little more input in life. But then
Right.
this happened and said, no, no, you, I felt like you're just like everybody else. That's what life is, right? And now I feel more relatable to people to let them know. And even, and what I think that is magical is that this is invisible. They can't see it.
Right.
Like if they only knew, they would know that I'm just like them. And we all go through trauma and we all have experiences and nobody's less than or more than, right? We all have something we have to deal with,
Right.
whatever that is. So in all that has changed my outlook, my perception of life, and that idea that so many people say, or the saying that goes, stop to smell the flowers, the little things, you gotta appreciate.
I agree with you because, like you said, trauma, bad things happen to all of us. But I think what defines us is how we respond to those situations.
Right.
And I know I felt the same way too. When I got diagnosed, it's like you were hit with this massive thing. And I thought to myself, wow, all that stuff I stressed about yesterday, that doesn't even matter. It's like right now, I just want to walk. I want to be able to be with my kids. I want to, live. And it's like,
Yes.
that Tim McGraw song, Live Like You're Dying, like that's what I was playing. And it's like at a moment, all of your perspectives changed because it went from worrying about what you're having for dinner to will I be able to walk in 6 months? And it's like just
Exactly.
reevaluated everything. So I definitely see that. As a counselor, how did living with MS change the way you understand like resilience, vulnerability, healing?
Well, at first, I was in total denial. I was angry. I was like, "That's it. This is the end." I looked at my son and my life and my husband and all these goals that I had in mind that, we all have these goals that we wanna reach in life, right? And that we're, like, at this race to get to that. But what is it to get there, right? In the race itself, you have to appreciate that time. But I was so angry. I was so in denial. I didn't even want anybody to come and see me in the hospital or come see me because I was in denial. I was like, "Nothing's wrong with me. What are you talking about?" I'll get over this, like a cold or like,
Right.
like a high fever or whatever, you deal with. And then, of course, it was like grief type of moments that I went through. And then I was afraid, very scared of this unknown. And what was so funny is that there was people I knew that were diagnosed with it and would tell me, "I have MS," but I had no idea what MS really was. I didn't even bother to see what that was beforehand. I just said, it's like saying I have high blood pressure or
Yeah.
diabetes, and I was like, "This is a little more than that."
Yeah.
Even though they're all the same, if we think about it, we all dealing with something. We have to take something, we have to care for something, and it's all in our body. But I felt very, like, angry, but then little by little, I learned what it all was, mostly about talking to the people that have it already, that
Yeah.
were in my circle, and I was like, "What is this? I cannot believe that," and they would just the positive they would say, "You're gonna be okay. It's gonna come back." Nowadays, we have medication, we can recover from it, and I could see that, right?
Yeah.
My motor skills were attacked. I couldn't speak. I couldn't groom myself. My husband had to take care of me while my mom took care of my son. I couldn't do things on my own. My independence was gone. Even my cognitive thinking and then even fears were extreme. There was nights I couldn't and didn't want to go to sleep. And it was holding myself. It was a lot of prayer. It was a lot of spiritual moments. And thanks to that, I also was able to, hold myself together and calm myself down. Right. But I
Right.
was like, completely afraid. I was so scared of all this. I was terrified. Oh, yeah.
Understandable.
Yeah. It was
And you mentioned grief, which is a good point too. Do you think, as a counselor, that people, a lot of people say that when they're diagnosed with a chronic illness, like you almost grieve your former self? Like I almost felt like she passed away and now it's like this new version of me. So would you say that people with a chronic illness kind of go through the stages of grief, like someone goes through stages of grief, I guess, like you mentioned anger and all of those things?
Yes. So it was like an identity crisis, like, so who am I now? Because 'Cause I've
Right.
been working so hard on being someone, that I thought I was gonna be, that I had all these things checked off and, you know, and it was a lot of shame too. It was like the unknown is always scary.
Right.
We were very scared. That's where the stress and the anxiety comes in general, of the unknown. What's out there? Tomorrow gonna be? All these unknown. And then, yeah, the grief was like, okay, so, that person's not going to exist anymore. And for a moment, I thought, okay, that's it. My life is over. But yet again, it was like another chapter in my book of my life.
Right.
Right. So you look at it as in the positive concept of life. It's like, okay, well, I'm going to turn the page and this is a blank page. Now it's up to me what to do with this. Right. Plus
Yeah. Because
MS,
at the end of the day, you're
whatever.
writing the story.
Right, right. And
So,
so I
and
said, "Okay." Go ahead.
I was going to say, go ahead. So you went with it.
Okay. So no, the disbelief, the frustration, and then the reminder of what life really is, right? Life is just trying to, keep yourself alive and enjoy your life and just keep doing the things that you're here for that bring you joy and positivity because tomorrow is unknown. We don't know what tomorrow
Right.
brings at all, right? And can't live in fear all the time. Is
Right.
just
And even
trying to
for
use
someone without a chronic illness, anybody, you don't know tomorrow. And what are some of the most common emotional challenges people face after being diagnosed with any chronic illness, not just MS? Like, what do you notice that people, the emotionally, like, is it like we talked about loss of identity and all of those things? Like, what are some things that you see?
well, the emotional challenges that they have and struggles are mostly based on their self-esteem, self-confidence, right? And their support, community, family. All those things are so much more important than chasing after things, right?
Right.
Because when you have that backbone, is that you are much more powerful when you fall. You have something and someone to help you get up, right?
No, that's true.
But the struggles are mostly that. It's like when I face something, who is there to support me, to help me, even to talk to, right? And that's what mostly counseling is. And that's where it was hard for me to put myself where I'm at to say, well, but I'm the helper and now I need
Right.
help. Who's going to help me? Right? But then I looked around and it made sense, and I always advised to find community, get support, look at the people around you, your friends, your family, because that's it. That's the motivation, that's our engine, that's our charging battery concept of life. And so when you do struggle, those are the things that are much more valuable,
And we know,
right?
like, like, if trauma and anxiety show up a lot in chronic illness, how can people begin healing emotionally while still living their life to the fullest? Like you mentioned, having a support system. Like, are there any other things that you teach people to do, like in therapy or counseling, just to cope with that? Like journaling or gratitude journaling, exercise? Like, are there any specific tools that you ever use for clients?
Well, yeah, the tools that you have to do is a lot of self-confidence. So identifying what qualities you have, right? Not focus on so much what you've done, where you came from, what people say about you, but what do you think about you? What do you bring to the table? Right? Improve and self-confidence, and I tell them most of the clients that are in these situations, I tell them, "Tell me what are" a very simple question that I ask. I'm like, "What are the 3 words that describe who you are?" That has been one of the hardest questions that I get the feedback from clients saying, Wait, because if you ask them, what is your name? Where were you born? What did you
Right.
do?
Factual
Who
stuff.
are you?" Right. They'll tell you everything. Those are facts, right? They lived
Right.
it, done it in there. But the question of describe yourself in 3 words. Sometimes they're like, wait, describe myself? They're not used to that, right? So that's that self-esteem, that self-confidence, that motivation to find who you are and your true self and go from there because we all have different gifts. We don't all do the same thing for the same thing or get the same results, right? But if we put it all together, it will work so much more, right?
No, that's
So just
true.
like coming together with you and talking about this, we are putting ourselves together to make ourselves stronger and more powerful to provide more information for people to help other people. And I just saw this as like, okay, this is not gonna defeat me. I'm gonna use this to help and I've had situations where it's like, great, I could use this tool and tell people, wait, no, this is what you want to look forward to. This is what's going to happen. Don't be so scared. Don't be so afraid. Now you know, right? Now you have the knowledge. So if back to the question you were saying is like how would that help or who would
And what you were saying before too, it's interesting too. On Valentine's Day, I gave a talk on self-love, and I was telling people, talk to yourself like you speak to others. It's like we're so busy giving all of this amazing compassionate care to our children and our patients and our friends, but we don't talk to ourselves with the same compassion, which I find interesting. I know I don't. And my therapist told me to talk to myself like I would want someone to talk to my children. And I think that's funny because if someone talked to my children like I talk to myself, I would have a problem with that, which is ironic, right? Because we're supposed
right.
to love ourselves. We spend every day of our lives with ourselves. So it's interesting that you bring that up, that's important. And MS, like we said, it's often an invisible illness. We don't see the symptoms always impacting someone. How does that impact someone's mental health and relationships? And how can people better communicate their needs? I know a lot of people are scared to ask for help or things like that.
With MS, it is more of the facilitating it to them, more like, they don't know what they need, right? They don't know what to expect. This is so, number one, invisible. So it's not like when you get cut, you're going to get a scar, you're going to have to put a band-aid, and you kind of see it, you feel it, you know it, you smell it, all your senses, right? But with MS, it's invisible and it's different for everybody. And they feel in the hospital when I was there, everybody would come and say, "How do you feel?" And I was so concerned with that. I was like, "What do you mean? I don't feel good." But they would definitely pay attention to how well, how little, how, gradual is it improving. And so it had a lot and a lot to do with me, right? So telling them about MS is more of like, this is what you kind of want to look forward to. You kind of want to pay attention to your body more. So that idea of paying attention to your body when you get tired or when you feel a certain way, really pay attention. What is your body saying, right? And I didn't pay attention to that for such a long time because I was on, I would say, mom mode. I was like, I just gotta go. I gotta complete all these tasks. My kid is, my number one, then my husband, my family, I was just on the go. Nobody was going to stop me
Yeah. Put
because
everyone else
I was
first.
on it. Yes. Yeah. I was fine. I was fine with bare minimum. I was okay. Totally thought I was, I did what I had to do. I had fun when I had to have fun. I had my me times long time ago. This is the time. This is what I thought parenting was. It was just go, 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 go. And then this came and it just like literally stopped me.
Yeah.
Literally, like, I couldn't walk, I couldn't talk,
Yeah.
the cognitive more everything, and it's just because of where my flare-ups came, it was just it took all my motor skills, and I thought I was, defeated. I was like, "That's it. I lost in this game of life," and I technically did not. If anything, this
Got
taught me
stronger.
how to pause, stop, and think, and smell the flowers, the roses, like they say. What does that really mean? Everybody hears it. For years, I've heard it. Stop and smell the roses. Stop. You hear this saying, but what does that mean? And this really means when you feel tired, when you need to take a break, when you have done as many tasks as you could, stop for a second and enjoy the moment. It's a gift, is a present today, right? And that made so much sense to me because in that 5 months, I've experienced so many emotions, so many things, anxiety, stress, depression, all at once. And I feel as looking back now is like, wow, I had the ability to feel all that at once and still overcome it, right? So if I could do it, anybody could do it,
Yeah, it's
right?
true. And I think for all the moms or busy people, we put so much effort into other people, you forget you cannot pour from an empty cup. So that brings a good question too. Like, what practical mental health tools or mindset shifts have helped you personally difficult MS days? Like, is there any like self care that you love? Like, I do a lot of exercise, or is there anything that you do? I know you mentioned spirituality is big for you.
Yes. So spirituality is very, very important because that links a lot with morals, with respect. It has a lot to do with that, right? On top of that, I actually started taking my own advice and said, okay, when
She
am I
loved
going
that.
to help my self care? What is that? What does that look like for me? Right? Because I would always advise, and I still advise, you got to take some time for you. What does your week look like? Because you have 24 hours. Is there an hour, 30 minutes that you take for yourself? Anything. Read a book, watch a show, go outside, go to the gym, anything. Go to the beach, go for a walk, have a call, anything. Anything that provides you something outside of your routine is called self-care, right? And it doesn't have to cost you or be very extreme or very challenging. But self-care is very important, right? So I started taking my time and I said, okay, after 10 o'clock, I'm done. I'm done. I am going to calm down. I am going to find my space. I'm going to sit down and watch a show, read a book, have time with my son, whatever that was,
Right.
right?
Setting boundaries and
Exactly.
yeah.
And then I looked at time in a different concept. It's like, okay, I'm going to work, but I'll work for these amount of hours and that's it. That's the benefit of having your own practice and working for yourself too.
Sure.
But I still had to have a time slot for everything, right? So what are my working hours? My 9 to 5? What does that look like for me? Right. And what are the standards and all these things that I need to look up to priorities and stuff like that. And then even if my to-do list was too long and I had to do so many things, what can I leave for tomorrow and what can I be okay with not doing right now?
Yeah.
A lot of self-care, a lot of grounding, right? So grounding, I use this tool and I love telling the clients that you have the tools in your hands, right? We have our five senses. So that's the tool that I provide to my clients, right? For grounding. Stop and smell. What are you smelling? Stop and look around. What are you seeing? Right? Outside of your phone, outside of your technology devices, what do you see around you? Who do you see around you, right? What can you feel? Do you feel anything? Right? Did you just put lotion and does it smell nice? Can you enjoy that for a minute? But those senses are always with us for a reason, and we could use that tool. And I say, you have it in your hand, right? And the other grounding is because we have two hands. The tools that I use are the W's, five W's. So what are you doing? Why are you here? Who are you with? What is the reason of things that, why, when, where, how, right? And those are groundings that you could just ask yourself these things and pay attention for a second. And that could in a second switch your light and go, okay, all right, I'm here with my family, let me enjoy the time with them. Or wait a minute, I'm here at work, let me finish my work for a second. Or my coworker just came, let me say hi to them. Or I'm outside and the weather's so nice, let me go and go for a walk. So these things could switch your thinking, your cognitive thinking, and do a switch on your day to day. If you just take a minute, it just takes a second. It doesn't cost you anything, and it
Yeah.
won't you have to go and drive far or go visit someone, for it could be a phone call.
Yeah. And I know when I got diagnosed, I read the book The Power of Now. Are you familiar with that?
Oh, no,
So
I'm
it's
not, but
it's
I
kind
will.
of like what you're talking about. So basically he says that we don't really live in the moment because we're so worried about the stress from the past, which we can't change, or the future,
Exactly.
which you really can't control. So he says that, like, you drive to work and you're so busy, you miss the flowers and the trees and kind of all of these beautiful things around you because you're so focused on the goal. But that book really helped me just kind of worry about now, like you said. And I also like the point you said too about kind of making a schedule for a day because we don't miss meetings. We don't miss our children's soccer practice or
Appointments,
cheer practice. So put the
doctor
self
appointments.
care, right. So
Right.
put the self care into your schedule so it doesn't get missed like everything else we prioritize. And I know you
Exactly.
mentioned too rest, and I know resting is important, and a lot of people feel rest is a waste of time, but it's actually not. It's recovery. And many people living with MS or chronic illness struggle with guilt when they need to rest. And like you mentioned, listening to your body. How do you help people reframe rest into something that's healthy rather than something that they have to earn? Because I know, like, I always tell my kids too, like, what happens if you don't plug in your iPad at the end of the night, right? Like, it has to be plugged in and
Exactly.
it can't be played on because it needs to recharge. So our bodies are the same way because cellularly we need that rest. And a lot of people think, well, if I go, 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 I don't need rest, I'm strong. Well, you do need rest, and rest is not a weakness.
Right. And rest doesn't have to mean you have to go to sleep. So, for example, I got in the habit of doing my chores, for example, right? So if I'm doing laundry, I will do the task and divide it in the time that I want. As in, like, I'll sit down for a minute, play with my son, right, and then I'll go back to the laundry and take a break. It helps me mentally and physically, right? Or I'll sit in the couch for a little bit, stretch my legs, have a moment to relax, drink something, and then once I catch my breath, then I'll go.
I get audiobooks. So when I'm cleaning the house or doing laundry, I'll listen to an audiobook. So it's kind of like a mini self care moment while accomplishing something.
Right.
So,
I do podcasts. I like
yeah,
listening to podcasts like we're doing right now, so
yeah,
that'd be great. Uh, but yeah, I take little breaks. That's part of the rest, right? So it's not always just you need to go to sleep.
right.
Or laying in the bed, putting a candle, and just taking a breath, listening to your breath, paying attention to your body, doing a little stretching, things like that, because MS takes over all of these motor skills that sometimes you do get tired. Like I still continue to feel the spider feeling in the back of my legs when I walk too much. So that's kind of like a sign, like sit down,
Slow down. Yeah.
down, stop what you're doing, whichever it is that I could do in that moment. But another thing that, I consider, like I had said, I stop at a certain time because my vision gets blurry still. So I already know, like, I could pay attention, and I've been paying attention now, like, my body's already tired. It can't see the computer, can't read the book, it can't read the iPad or whatever I'm looking to, whatever
Right. It's trying to
device.
tell you to stop.
It's telling me to stop. Exactly. And I'm physically tired, so it's like, I ask myself, "It's okay," and I tell myself, "It's okay to go to sleep now and just
Yeah.
relax and just lay in the bed, or, have a moment to think, to pray, to have, that nightly routine where you kind of look at your day and you kind of say, okay, I'm satisfied with today. What can I improve? And you have these it's a physical and mental rest. And eventually you just doze off and you go to bed and you will wake up the next day, and you're fresh and you're refreshed and ready to go and do your thing. It's not a punishment. It's not like a timeout. It's just you're giving yourself, what you should have given yourself all the time, and everybody should give themselves, right? It's like
Yeah.
you have to have time to go to bed. The whole reason of the nighttime is to go to sleep.
Right.
The world
Rejuvenate.
is so perfect, right? It's so perfect for you that it tells you, okay, good night. The sun is going to bed, the moon's out. That's a sign. It's for you to rest so that the next morning, why would the sun come up the next morning, right? Because you have to wake up and there goes your next day, things like that. So everything works in like this circle of life is just so amazing that you just pay attention to it too much. I appreciate it more now, knowing what I have, what I've been through, in such a short time. And at 39, they're like, "Oh my gosh, you're 39, and now is when you get this stuff." It's like, no, no, I. They were telling me that I've had MS for a while. It just didn't flare up
Right.
enough for me to pay attention. So now I pay attention, and I pay attention a lot. And I pay attention even for other people. I look at people, and I find cues, and I connect more. And that's why I had said that this being invisible makes it much more curious, right? To me, and to tell other people and say, no, I'm not any better, right? I'm just like you. And that connection is so valuable for me in counseling, that it truly connects me to the people that I meet, that I talk to, that I have as patients. And it's just like that connection cannot be broken anymore. It's like, wow, we connected, and we're going from here on, and we're going to do this, and we're going to face these fears, these goals, and all these things, and go from there because I've been there.
And if somebody was just diagnosed with MS today and feeling completely overwhelmed, thinking back to your diagnosis, what would you want them to know?
Want them to know that they're going to feel all these feelings because it's going to happen. This is new, right? This is different. This
Yeah.
is scary, but it doesn't need to be scary to the point where, our mind can take it, right? I want to let them know that, what to expect. And when you tell somebody, you give them that knowledge, you provide these testimonies. Basically, my testimony is what helps them most. Like, this is what I went through, right? And telling them what I went through, what to expect, and, what to not fear, because my biggest fear was they're going to touch my brain. They're going to touch it. They're going to go in there, and now I'm going to have these major surgeries. I went through to the worst, and I thought the worst of all this, that basically, and none of that. It was just MRIs and infusion. And
Right.
when I could see, sorry, I could see and feel how the clients take a breath, and they're like, okay, so it's just kind of just those things. I'm like, yeah, it's not gonna go away. Obviously, there's no cure, but there's
Right.
treatment, there's
Yeah.
hope.
Yes. Yeah.
So
No,
sorry,
it's
thought you were gonna
important.
ask.
Yeah. No, it's for sure. It's important just to know the sense of community. I know that was a big thing too when I was diagnosed. I've met so many amazing people from all over the world from this illness. So if you told me that, I wouldn't have believed you. But it just creates this sense of community and belonging, and you're not alone. And how would you say MS has shaped your sense of purpose or meaning? Like, I know we touched a little bit about it, but what gives you hope moving forward? Like you mentioned, hope for a cure and community and having a family support system. Is there anything else?
Well, it has given me more meaning and closeness to people, to others. It just makes me feel closer to people. So I am extroverted, introverted, both sometimes. I don't even know. But after all this, I feel like I just want to connect with everybody because we are all the same. And I have no fear in telling people things about what MS is. If in any way I want to tell them, by the way, hi, I'm Isabel, I have MS, right? So I want to, and I have no fear in telling people things about what MS is. If in any way I want to tell them, by the way, hi, I'm Isabel. I have MS, right? So I want to introduce them to this unknown world, of course, and not to have fear, right? It
Yeah,
just made me feel so connected. I thought I was already connecting with clients and people before because I have this, sense of connection. Like I would talk to people. I would always, that's why I got into this field of
of
counseling
course.
because I connect so well, both in English and in Spanish, right? Culture and differences and all that called my attention a lot. So this just got me much more closer to them, much more connect. And I want to tell them not to fear, right? Fear anything because we all have to go through something,
Right.
right?
We all have our battles.
Right. That's the thing. We all have, and we all carry our baggage. We all have this invisible baggage because even though I have an invisible diagnosis, some people have invisible baggage that they have from their past, from their present, from trauma, wherever it comes from. It doesn't matter. I just want to tell them it's going to be okay, right? We're going to
Yeah.
make it.
And I know someone said to me once, they're like, "Did you ever deal with the trauma?" And I said, "What trauma?" And they're like, "The trauma of being diagnosed with a chronic illness." It's like, and I didn't even think of that as a trauma. Like
Right,
when we
right.
think of trauma, we think of like mental abuse or child abuse or
Physical
physical
abuse,
trauma.
verbal, and
Right.
and it's like, what are you talking about? Trauma,
Right.
but yeah,
But yeah, I
it
guess when you think about it, it's overwhelming because it's like I felt like I just woke up one day and I'm told I'm sick and I'll never get better. And
exactly.
so
I tell them it was a living nightmare.
yeah, and I saw someone said people think MS is a death sentence. It's not. It's a life sentence. And
Right,
like that hit pretty powerful too because you are sick for life. So like we said, there's only so much we can do in every day to help it. You can eat
right.
right, you can exercise, you can work on your mental health, you can take meds and but it's like beyond that, it's
Mhm.
not worth stressing because it's just taking away the joy from the present like you said.
Right, and we can't control our body to that extent, right?
Right.
We can
So
only do as much
do the
as we
best we
can.
can.
Exactly. So when I looked at it for a second, I visualized in my mind, I was like, everybody has something.
Yeah.
You either have diabetes, high blood pressure, heart conditions, all these usual conditions or diagnoses, I would say.
Yeah, the common
Health
ones that we
issues,
hear.
common. Just because they're common doesn't make it that it's okay, but because they're common, it just makes me feel more connected. Like
Right.
we all have something,
Not
right?
alone. Yeah.
And so at the end of all this, moving forward, my whole idea is that the thing that I thought would destroy me would be that one thing. It's the greatest gift that I got. So I have just been able to just see things and go from this. And instead of it destroying me, I used it. I am using it to motivate me as a greater gift, not only to give knowledge to others or to advocate and all this, but to never think that I could be anything less or more than anybody else and let them know you're not any less because of your trauma or because of your experience or anything. You are not any less than me or me from you, right? And it's just
Right. It's
seeing
not
it
our
that way.
weakness. It's our superpower.
Exact right. The
Yeah.
superpower.
And I think
That
too that
is
brings it back to life is all about perspective. It's how you look at things. So I think that that
exactly.
makes a big difference too.
Yep.
So
That's where
is
I'm
there
at now.
anything now that you understand as a patient that you wish more healthcare providers understood? Like I know I was thinking about it when I was putting together the questions and it's like when I became the patient and like you're waiting for the scan and it's like I didn't like being the patient. I didn't like waiting for the other end. And Another thing I thought of too, like for healthcare providers, like a lot of times I've seen a lot of healthcare providers as a patient. And I always think that sometimes I don't remember what they told me, but I always remember how they made me feel. So I think that's an
Exactly.
important message to healthcare providers too, because it's not what you say, it's how you say it.
Yes. So when I was going to my just there was a nurse there that she was just trying and would take time before and after my appointment and just kind of come and say literally come in front of me and say, "How you doing? You're looking better. You're
Right.
gonna
Like
get
that's so
better." I
nice.
promise that there's people that come in with because I was using a walker to move. And that was so intimidating to me to know that now moving forward, that's it. And she would just tell me over and over, "Don't worry, you're not going to use this forever. The least that you would need is a cane here and then, and you are going to be better." And so just her talking to me before even my session with the doctor
You
and
felt so
then
much
telling me,
better.
oh my gosh, and she would make me cry. I would be
Oh,
crying in my appointment because she was just like, "You're going to be better, positive motivation." I've seen clients that come in here and you wouldn't even tell. And
right.
so me walking in there now, I felt like you were right. I felt so much better. And that's what patients need.
Yeah.
If they have even a tint of a idea that MS is coming, what is really MS? Because I know that in the perspective of a neurologist, right? They're looking at all the factors in your brain. They're doing all this science, doctor stuff, and you're just caught in your emotions in the moment and you're like drowning and you just want that little glimpse of hope. And she comes out and she talks to she gave me her phone number. Mind you, this
Oh,
doesn't take time or money,
right.
right? If only in every neurologist's office there was somebody like that, maybe even the providers,
Yeah.
to say, okay, we have clues. We are thinking it could be MS, but look at it this way. Or
Yeah.
go over here. Look at this. You're gonna be okay. Treatment, there's treatment. This is what the treatment looks like. So just that glimpse of hope of, you're not gonna need to come to neurology. They're not gonna touch you. Nobody's gonna touch you. The most you
Right.
need to do
Nothing
is
scary. Blood
MRI.
work
Right.
questions,
Blood
physical
work.
exam.
Right. OT, all these
Yeah.
things that are and then it felt so much better because I had her number. I could
Right. You're
text her
not
and
alone.
everything.
And you
Right.
you bring a good point too, because I can always tell when I call to like a new office to make an appointment, like even for my kids, I can always
Mhm.
tell the feel of the office based on who answers the phone. So it's like phone people will make or break a first impression. So it's
Front
like,
desk.
yeah, so front desk, and they have a hard job because they are dealing with people who are not always happy. But it's, yeah, it's like just the community of the office. That's a good point. Like
Right.
just
Right.
knowing that to you it's just another office visit as a provider, but to that person it's their whole world, and they may
Right.
be getting some news that's going to change everything.
Yeah. And so many and then the neurology field, there's so much in there. I couldn't even I was like, "What? You could have this, you could have that, you could have the
Yeah,
other." And then there was so many fears because ALS came up, right? So that's something else. That's another condition that has
right,
no treatment, has no repair, no nothing. And I was just all over the place. And then all these other conditions that were
right.
coming.
And you're like, is it Lyme disease? And these titers are positive,
Right.
and you're looking at the blood work and getting excited. You think it's this and it's not, and then you're all over
Right.
the place. So yeah, it's an interesting journey.
It is. It is.
But, like we said too, self-love, self-confidence, and I know something I try to do even on hard days is I try to find, like, a glimmer, like, something good that happened. It could be anything, like your coffee tasted good, the weather was nice, someone held the
Exactly.
door for you, and
You
I
see?
think just
Exactly.
trying to find those things, the good parts of the day, and remembering, I guess, too, telling my patients too, like, even if you have a bad day, it's not a bad life,
Exactly. It's
so I
acting.
think
And then
yeah,
you do what? You turn the page and you have a
right,
blank slate the next day, the next hour, you moving forward, and it's up to
reset,
you what you wanna put there, right? And
right.
it's so because here's the thing, we are so used to going to the worst case scenarios for everything. How about
Yeah, why? Is
staying
that
in
how
the
human brain is
positive
wired?
case? Right. And then why not staying and or looking for the positive case scenarios of everything
Right.
for a
I
little,
know I saw
right?
something online the other day. It said, if you can imagine the worst, you can imagine the best.
There you go. That's
But we don't.
exactly what I tell my
Why?
clients. We
Right.
don't. We just fixate on the negative and all the worst, and it's like, no. but what if it does go well, right? What if it does go good? Or
Yeah.
what if it goes bad, but look what happened on this side? Look what your kids were doing over here. Or look what you got to do over there.
Yeah, no, it's important. And whenever we would start a patient on a new medication, like for anything, depression, pain, what if I do this? What if I get this side effect? What if I get that? And I look at them and I say, what if it helps? What if it greatly
Exactly.
improves your life? Like we're always thinking the worst. So it's true. And I know you said your son is
Oh,
5, so my kids are 7 and 10, and I always find it interesting too. Like at first, I don't think they knew what MS was. I still don't. But my daughter thinks like the MS walk is Orange Day, and so like she gets so excited if she sees something orange because like everything we have is orange,
well,
and she's like, "We love orange because we love MS." And I'm like, "Well, I don't know if we love it, but yes, we
I
do
don't know. We
like
love it.
orange for that. Yeah, we don't love MS, but yes,
How
does your
cute.
son know what it is, or does he have any? I asked my kids, I said, what is it? And I think my son said I had holes in my brain, and my daughter said my brain was sick. Like they have their own interpretation of what it means. I was
Okay.
just curious,
But
does
they're
your
pretty
son
close.
know what it
Um,
is, or
so no, well, he was 4 when all this
okay.
started, right? And so back to that, I was on a mission. He was gonna go to pre-K. I was gonna be, consistent. He never got to do none of that. He
Oh,
never, and he had no idea that I have a neurological MS condition diagnosis. And thankfully, thanks to, like I said, back to the support, my mother
yeah,
and my husband taking control either of what I needed or what my son needed. They just fill in the gaps. That was great. So there was no need to tell him. All that he knew was that I was using a walker when I got home, and he would even sit in it and want me to push him in it, right?
right,
But it was just, I'm sick, I'm getting better,
right.
and that was it. There
Yeah,
was
my kids were
no
2 and 5 when I
family.
got diagnosed, so they were little. We had a nurse come into the house to give me the steroids because it was COVID, and so we were just
Oh,
explaining,
wow.
they're making me better.
Right.
But yeah, it's always interesting how children interpret
Oh,
it.
no, yeah. We definitely want him to understand that going to the hospital, going to the doctor is to help,
Yeah,
right?
not
To help
scary.
you get better, not to fear it. And he loves going to the doctor and getting, checked up and all that. So when, I go or he needs to go with me, I explain everything as much as I could
Right, so he's
and
not
as much as he
scared.
pays attention to. But it didn't really cause him too much other than I think the thing that did cause him an issue was that I wasn't there. And mind
Right,
you, I had been with him forever at home. Me and my mother taking care of him. I work from home and, my husband will come too. So he's so used to having that routine and we had to break it because I had to be in the hospital.
right,
And so it was fine. He was with my mom, my husband was with me in the hospital and all that. But when I came back, he felt or noticed that I couldn't move or walk or do the things I was doing before because I was very on the floor. I would carry him. I was just like very mobile and very involved, right? And all of a sudden, I'm sitting in a chair and I can't move and he can't jump on me.
right.
So he had some retaliation issues at first. He didn't understand it too much. And, I had my issues with depression. I didn't want to leave the house. I didn't want nobody to come in the house until my mom was like, no, no, we're going in the car. We are going to the nearest McDonald's or something,
Yeah,
but you're getting out of the house because this is not the end of you.
right.
Being there and my husband taking us and just going, we're like, no, no, we're doing all this. And they were just,
Yeah,
like I said, support has a lot to do with
yeah,
it. But my son overall, he blossomed after that once I got better. I put
right.
him in kindergarten and he just blew us. He's still blowing us. Like, wow. He's
Yeah.
doing great. I don't see a need at this point telling him exactly what I'm doing, but I'm sure he will love the color orange when we do our
Yeah, my
walks.
kids love it. They get excited.
He loves festivals and carnivals and he likes going places like this. So that'd be great to take him along and
Yeah,
understand from a small age. And that's great that your kids know that at this age, they know that there's something going on and there's ways of dealing with it. And,
yeah.
you're teaching them valuable lessons, which is
Yeah, and they're
amazing.
they're older now, and some days if my pain is bad and I'm tearful in the house, I just want to explain why,
Right.
so they just know the fight, because they're part of that fight too, and they're my why for why I'm fighting.
There
Yeah,
you go.
but yeah, as they got older, I kind of told them a little more bits and pieces.
Right. Yeah.
But
I'll probably have to do the same too.
yeah, on an as needed basis, right?
Now I want to tell everybody.
Yeah.
It's just so funny. Like
You
that one thing
yeah.
you think you're gonna destroy you, it's the greatest gift,
Yeah.
right?
I kept it a secret for a year, and then I started kind of shared the diagnosis a week before a walk, and it was like all of a sudden we had 75 people walking, we had $5,000 raised. It was like it was just a pivotal turning point, and it was like, why did I keep this to myself so long? But like you
Right?
said, you're scared. I
Right.
was worried people thought I couldn't do my job, like just fear. Fear kept it a secret. So,
Well, that's what I tell the clients too. It's like your past is your depression and your future is your anxiety. So why
it's
not be
true.
in today where you're away from two, right?
Away from
It's
both,
just
yes.
exactly stay in the middle. Try to balance yourself. I know it's a little
I
hard,
like
but
that.
you
The
know,
past is the depression, the future is
right.
the anxiety. I like that.
It was an appreciation for another soul, another person
Caring
in
for
that
you,
position,
yeah.
caring for
Like, I
me.
remember that too, like, when I had my babies. Like, you
Right,
can barely make it to the bathroom and you're getting help, and it's just you're helpless, and they're there for you. You made me laugh because you said when someone says, "Oh, I have MS, what do you say?" And I saw
right.
this thing the other day, and it's like, people always say, "You look great." And they're like, "Well, I'm sick, not ugly." And it was just, like, funny the way they said that,
Oh, yeah,
It's like,
that's so
"Oh, but you
funny.
you look so good." And someone else was like, "Oh, yeah, having a chronic illness is so good for my self-esteem because every time I tell someone I have it, they tell me how great I look."
Right.
But I'm like, "That's what we
Exactly.
say." So,
I love
yeah.
that you said that. I love that you said that. That's a
Yeah, I was laughing the other day when
great
I read that
concept.
because it's like,
It's like,
it
"You look
is
good." It's like, "Well, I hope I do. I don't wanna
yeah,
look ugly."
not ugly, I'm just sick.
I'm just sick. Well,
Yeah,
because
so
people relate sickness with the deterioration
right.
of your face
You're
and in
supposed to
your
look sad and
soul,
in pain
you're
and
supposed to look like right. Just
right,
like when somebody has an accident, gets hit and hurt and starts bleeding, there's a look
right, and, like,
for that.
whenever I see my neurologist, I just saw him this week, he always looks at the paper and looks at me, he's like, "Well, you look much sicker on paper." I'm like, "Alright, we'll keep it that way."
Let's keep the paper dirty, not me. I wanna
Yeah,
be clean and I
I'll
wanna
be
look
pleasant.
nice.
Yeah,
Right.
so
So
it's
that's
interesting.
pretty good. That's funny. I like that. I like
Yeah,
that a lot. That's a
so we
good
can make
concept. I'll tell them now that. It's like,
yeah,
well, what is MS supposed to look like? Right? And it's
yeah,
funny because I do work with a lot of trauma. And trauma meaning accidents, right? So physical accidents. So
right,
so many people say, if only people were to see how
right,
painful it is for me to stand, to sit, my back, my head, my headaches are every day. Nobody sees that. I'm like, exactly. You
yeah,
don't have a cast on your head or your neck. Nobody
right.
sees that you got hit, you got hurt, that you have herniated discs, that you have whatever it is that you have. Nobody sees that.
Yeah,
So
so I have the
therefore,
neck fusion, but it's so well healed now. You can barely see it. So
oh,
I have
well,
metal and screws in my neck. So same thing. It's like I have pain all the
oh my
time and I have chronic
God.
migraine too. You can't see that. That's another invisible
Oh, for a
illness.
long time, I had migraines. Really
Yeah.
long time. After I had my son, there is no more migraines.
Yeah,
I
it's
don't
crazy.
know.
The hormones play a role to start, stop.
Basically, this is what I tell clients. This is a stressor. Pick one. Is it a negative stressor
Yeah,
or a positive stressor?
I'd say more positive.
Exactly. So
So
that's why she
yeah,
said you will fill it
that's
in
what
with
she's
something
like. You'll
else.
just throw something else in there.
Exactly.
Just
And
keep it.
it's good.
I'm like,
It's a
okay.
good stressor.
Yeah.
And when you categorize those, you feel a little more content and in control. And you're like,
Yeah.
okay, I got stressors, period. They're not going to go
Yeah.
away.
She has me
Stress
putting
and
stuff in
anxiety,
buckets.
depression, these things don't go away. Your past and your future don't go away.
Right.
So you could categorize, all right, this is a positive stressor, me stressing about getting in a podcast with you type of thing.
Right. Right.
I was like, this is a positive stressor. This is actually pretty good.
And
And
then
I'm
I
excited.
liked yeah, and then I like to think too, like, sometimes I think of filing cabinets, sometimes I think of buckets, and, like, she always tells me, like, "If there's nothing you can do about the stressor right now, file it away. Don't let it take up time, place in your head."
Right.
So, yeah,
Put it somewhere, but not in your
not
head.
there.
Not in your feelings, not in your
Right.
heart. Those
So,
are
yeah.
very, very important spots.
Yeah,
But
I'm
that's
trying to
good.
learn my tools, separate my emotions from my feelings, and figure
Oh,
out what it's trying to tell me. It's a work in
life is
progress.
hard. Yeah,
But thank you again for being here and sharing your
thank
story.
you.
And to everyone
No
listening,
problem.
remember your diagnosis is only one part of your story. So keep showing up,
Exactly.
keep learning, keep moving forward. And remember that growth and healing can exist alongside the hard moments. So thank you for listening to Miss Wired Podcast. If this episode resonated with you, please take a moment to follow, share it with someone who may need this conversation today. Your support helps these stories reach more people living with MS and other chronic illness. We'll see you next time.